Hello, and welcome to Decorate It. My name is Mary, and this is Wes. And this is episode 15. We are talking about marbling.
Or as some like to call finger painting.
Some do nickname it finger painting.
But it is marbling.
It's definitely marbling, 100% marbling. Honestly, I've played around with it. I'm not so hot with the marbling technique itself. I kind of went off and did my own thing on left field. But
you definitely do a different technique for it.
I do a different technique. But you, however, when did you start? Like 2 or 3 years ago with it?
My first attempt was actually that white rod sitting over there.
Yeah, the original.
That the first time I ever did it, it was nowhere thick enough, and it turned into kind of like Hawaiian flowers, so to speak. And then we promptly covered that up with a decorative wrap because it was garbage.
You had kind of what looked like alcohol ink on it, basically.
It was
really thin and it like spread out.
So what I did was I took the epoxy, laid it down in just a clear mixed epoxy, and then I took the paint and kind of dabbed it in there, and that's what gave it that kind of water-like effect because it just took the ink and ran.
Yeah.
Instead of it actually mixing together and
doing what it was supposed to.
Marbling.
But then you actually were watching Arturo.
Yep, and we messaged back and forth for a little bit as far as like how he does his technique, and I kind of modified what he does. I like the more, it's almost like a fleur-de-lis pattern.
Yeah.
In the marbling.
It's the I would call it like the traditional, I guess, because that's typically like if you go and look at people that are doing like that, what's her name, Maya Silks or something like that, and she does the water marbling, but then she transfers it to scarves.
Yep.
But she has the rakes and stuff like they did with the traditional when they were doing the books and stuff back then. You know, they would always just whoosh and make all kinds of designs with it.
Yeah. And I've done it as short as, a couple inches all the way up to, 75% of a 8-foot gaff we did it on.
You did 2 gaffs with it.
Yep.
A blue and a red one.
You don't want to put it on a ultralight rod and try to cover the whole thing with it.
No. No. I mean, there's limitations to everything, but at the same time, you just use your brain. Is this something that this can go on? Would I put a wrap on it? If you wouldn't put a wrap on it, definitely don't put marbling on it.
Right.
Not that I think that marbling would weigh much more than a wrap, honestly.
Not once everything's said and done, no.
But anywhere we put epoxy and anything's going to stiffen the blank, so just keep that in mind. But I definitely don't do the traditional marbling.
No,
You've tried to teach me, and I have still eagerly trying to sort out the traditional way because I do love how you do yours. I think that I would call you the expert.
Oh.
I know you're better at it than I am. I suck. But I started playing around with paint pours.
Yes. And that looks very interesting as far as what can be done with it.
But you don't have any really control over like the design.
No.
It just kind of dictates what it's going to do. And then we'll probably take a episode and talk about taking a concept and like exploding upon it, if you will, expanding on it, where I decided instead of, okay, I suck at being able to do the traditional marbling technique, so let me do it flat and let it dry and then peel it off and put it on so I have more control over it, that kind of thing. But you'll see some of the photos and I'll talk about it tonight. Not the expansion. We'll save that for a different episode. If you were to explain to somebody how to do like basic or beginner marbling, what would you explain to them to do?
Get something you don't care about screwing up first.
Like a practice dowel.
Yeah, practice dowel or a piece of PVC or a broken blank or something. Mix up 2-part epoxy, like your normal rod finish epoxy. Do a smaller batch than what you would normally do.
Yeah,
so like I do 2 milliliters of each.
So you mix up a 4 total volume.
4 total volume.
And you just split that between how many colors?
That's per color.
Oh, okay.
That I do.
Okay.
Because I can always use less of what I mix, or I can use all of what I mix.
Right.
But the way I mix it, it thickens fast, so you've got to be ready to work with it.
Because I
use acrylic paint.
Which is similar to mud.
Which, when I put the acrylic paint in, I don't measure it at all. It's
a couple drops, honestly.
It's like 3 good boom, drops. But before I actually mix it, I do that to all the colors I'm going to use. Because the moment I mix it, it thickens up. Now, if I just drop it in there, it doesn't thicken.
Yeah,
it just kind of sits there and just stays. But the moment you start mixing it, you have to be ready to work with it. You can't oh, I'm going to wait a minute, and you're going to be working with rock hard stuff very quickly.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be so chunky that it won't actually flow and move and level on the blank.
Which, during some of those demos you were doing this past week for the expo,
Yep.
you had a
There's-
couple that
I did
bleh.
some of that. I did that on purpose, especially the one with those big chunks of glitter, because I wanted people to see that, look, you can add things, but this is how it's going to affect it, and you have to be prepared to work with it that way. But then once you mix it up, lay down your base color. I always try to do a darker color as the base, and then have 2 lighter colors that are contrasting to spiral around.
Mm-hmm.
Take your base layer, put it down, get it as level as you can. It ain't got to be perfect because you're going to spin it afterwards, and you're going to be spinning it the whole time. Put it on like a medium slow speed if you can control the speed, or have a patient foot. You want it to spin fast enough that it doesn't move, but you don't want it to spin so slow that it's moving or so fast that it's moving.
Or flinging all over the
Or
place.
slinging all over the place like I had happen this week. Then take one of your other colors. I like to take the little plastic, I call them sauce cups.
Well, they're portion cups.
Portion
They're-
cups,
They
there
come
you
from they come from Sam's. They're portion cups.
I like to take the portion cups and fold them so that you get a little spout, and then gradually pour it as it's spinning so that you get that constant color going all the way around. Then I'll take the other color, either go back the opposite way or the same way, whatever your preference is. Do the same thing. Pour it back over top of it, and then set all that to the side and make sure you're not going to sling it everywhere. Then take just a typical dental pick, mechanics pick, whatever you want to use. Go down while it's turning, come back while it's turning. Then clean your pick off, scrape back and forth, and there's videos that Mary's done that shows how I'm doing this. But you're going to go down and back and down and back and down and back all the way around, and try to get it to where you have opposites when they meet up. Even if it's like super close, have an opposite there, and then decide what you want to do from there. I leave it after that point. Some people go back and do little details and scratching and things like that, but that's all I do.
But when you're doing the back and forth, like actually doing the drags, you're hand turning it. You're no longer actually putting
Yes,
it on
I'm not having it
RPMs.
on speed at that point because I want to be able to control, okay, I've done this one, turn, this one, turn, this one, turn,
And
each
because
time.
you use the acrylic with the epoxy, it's thick enough that that few seconds that you're halting, it's not going to just whoosh
Yes.
all over the place.
Yep. And mud does the same thing. You just have to add more mud to get the same effect as acrylic paint,
Yes.
from what I've seen.
And you can also use alcohol inks. You can use mica powder.
Mm-hmm.
You can use pigments. You can use testers. You can use, anything basically that adds dye to the epoxy
Yep.
can be used. You just have to play around and see what happens with it.
I've used testers before, like for model cars,
Mhm.
acrylic paint. We've got some of the powders that Nuno sells, which
Yep.
that green
That green
is
is
awesome.
amazing.
We've used glitter paint. We've used metallic paint. We've used glow in the dark,
Glitter.
actual glitter added to it.
Sky's the limit. It's one of those kind of like test and play around. And the great thing about it is if you screw up, like wipe it off with acetone.
Acetone,
Start
denatured,
over,
whichever will
you know.
take it off.
You can scrape it off and start over. You can wipe it off. Either one.
But I
you
will
know.
say the acrylics that we use, once it goes on and it's like set for a couple minutes, if you change your mind, good luck.
Well, that also has to do with how much you add to. If they only
Mhm.
started with like a couple or like a little drop of it and they mixed it up, it's not going to be as thick as
Yep.
what you put in
Yep.
either.
Because there was one that I screwed up on, for an example.
It's on the demo stick.
It's on the demo stick for the expo coming up, and it wouldn't come off. So it's staying on there, and I'm going to tell you what happened and why it happened.
And you also know that different colors by different brands of acrylic will react differently. Some of them will stay thinner no matter how much you add, and
Mhm.
some of them with just a tiny bit are going to thicken up.
Yep.
Like that. What is it? Is it Apple something? The really cheap 50-cent brand that's from.
It's like Apple Orchard or something.
Anyway, it's from Walmart. That's where it comes from. The pink that he used, he put just a little bit in there,
And
and
it-
it turned to concrete. And he was like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, real quick. Really quick.
So you can put marbling just about anywhere because, you typically see it in the split,
Above the floor,
above the foregrip,
under
the
wraps,
guides.
on heavier rods.
And the marbling doesn't have to even necessarily be like the heavy. We're mixing a whole bunch of stuff and doing a whole design. Some people are doing like fires. Some people are doing like painting certain little areas to look like stars and stuff like that.
Bullet holes.
Bullet holes, yep. Fish, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the Southern Rod Builders, again, have helped us out in contributing some of their amazing stuff. Wes and I have some pictures mixed in tonight of some of the things I've done.
And it shows all the different range of styles and things you can do.
Mm-hmm. And mine, remember, are not actually true marbling. They are taking it to a different kind of side of design, if you will.
Alice was involved.
Alice was involved. But without any further ado, let's take a look at what some of the Southern Rod Builders were doing. Adam Clements up first, but he's done red, white, and black marbling, and it's very abstract. That's how I would describe that. It's awesome looking because it's got a lot of like kind of curves and cool like texture to it. So that's actually a pretty fun one.
The white section really reminds me of like a wave crashing.
Yep. Another one of Adam's. So this one's kind of got like a leaf and kind of vine look to it. And he was saying that he was just kind of like testing different pulls, different drags, what happens with it, you know. And you do have to remember that you can actually, and I do this all the time, so I'll flat out tell myself, you can over manipulate it and get it to be where it's just a nasty mess.
It'll start blending if
It blends way too much, which I do that because I overcomplicate it every time. But this one has, you can see where he's done all the different drags and stuff, but everything is individually kept together in the colors. So
yeah, and keep in mind, you know, if you pour colors on top of each other and then drag from inside of those colors, you can get designs and fishes and things of that nature very, very simply.
Yeah, you let it dry just a little bit.
It's all on how you manipulate the actual epoxy and pigment.
Arturo. So I actually tagged him and Chris Lick to make sure that they got their work put in here because they are some of my favorite people to look at what they're doing. And Arturo's put this little collage together of all the stuff that he has done.
I like how he always ties his colors together.
Yeah, so if we take a look at his wrap up top, like, looks like he's used the brown with green and maybe a little gold or a copper kind of thing in it with black.
Really looks like camo.
It's really, it straight up looks like camo, which you can tell he's trying to match that reel. And then we go to his guides, all different kind of techniques in between the guides, and then matching camo grips as well, and where he put his decal looks great. Pretty basic colors with black, white, and gray. Cannot go wrong with those in any kind of build or design that you're trying to do. I love his drags. He does a little bit more mixing than you do as far as the colors, but I mean, just great work. Brian LaBelle. So down here at the bottom, he's done a Hulk rod, and he's done like this kind of red to yellow to green kind of fire kind of drag transition into where he's got the Hulk label, and on his guides, he's got the black and the green. It looks really good. Very cool little build. I love theme rods and stuff anyways, so. Chris Licht. So this one is actually alcohol ink, and he's just dropped them on there, and it's pretty much just striped around. Really pretty colors on this one. And it reminds me of the Cheshire Cat.
It does.
It's just probably just because of Alice sitting over there. Other than that, like it's really pretty build. Like it just reminds me of the Cheshire Cat.
Pinks and purples and blues.
Eric Hansen. I really like his marbling under here. This is the kind that I prefer personally.
It's like a green and copper and
gold looks like. That one's really pretty. That one's nicely done. It's got all that little like drag detail going back and forth. Sometimes you can just go in one direction too. You know, you don't have to go back and forth. Eric Prather coming in with a nice marbling done under this guide with oranges, golds, and blacks. His is like the drag, but it also has like these little like swirls in it too.
That one makes me think of like a golden granite.
Yeah, it does kind of have that sporadicness that is of granite. It looks good. And the fun thing about marbling is you're never going to get the same thing twice. Ever. Another one of Eric Prather's. So this one's fun because he's done the under wrap and then has it also on his over wrap, so it looks kind of continuous, if you will. Greens with a yellow, a little bit of black in there with a green guide to match it too. Another one, Eric Prather. So this one's cool because he's gone from the yellow all the way to like a red and marbled over it with very thin marbling on this one. So kind of more lines with a little bit of texture, but an ombre effect happening because of it. Eric Collett, he's got marbling underneath his wrap. And and that marbling looks crazy.
Almost makes it look like a foil technique under.
Very cool. It looks textured, and I think that's what gives it a little bit of funk to it. We have John doing a black and blue marbling. This one reminds me of like the blue flame kind of engulfing and moving up.
Or blue smoke.
Where it breaks off and it has little wiggles and stuff. That one's kind of fun. And marbling is all about just getting in there, doing it, and figuring out what you like, what you don't like. Keith, this one reminds me of granite too. So he's got like the base kind of mixture of like the blue and what color is that? Pewter?
Blue and silver and black.
And then
a little bit of white.
And then he's got the little thin lines of the black going over the top of it. It's very cool. So Lori has this awesome pine cone wrap, but up at the top of the tie-off, she's done a fire marbling drag. We'll see on her guides later on a better picture where you can actually see the flames. And I was telling Wes when we were loading these in here, this is probably one of the best fire representations from marbling I've ever seen.
Yeah, it looks really good, especially when she has the close-up of just the marbling.
Yeah. Hey, look.
Alice.
There's Alice. There's Alice. So this is what I was talking about earlier where I did a paint pour. And this was totally one of those Alice moments for me where it was late at night. I wanted to do something. I was waiting on epoxy to dry. I could not do anything else. So I wanted to get part of the voice in my head that was screaming at me to try something out. And I took PVC, mixed up some acrylic paint, and dumped it on this PVC. And this is what happened. And I love it. I wish it was something that I could actually build on because it's so freaking cool. I don't even know what happened. But I literally I did not pour this on here with it spinning on the wrapper. I held it in my hand vertically and poured it down. And then very quickly and messily and made a bloody mess trying to get it over to the wrapper. Got it on there. And that's where all those side pulls going down started. So there's multi-directions happening because of how it got poured on there. Now, finessing this technique is going to be a pain because we're not going to try to pour paint all over our components in this process.
Oh, why not?
So I'd have to figure out a way to, come up with a way to block for making the mess on that stuff and controlling it a little bit better. But the idea behind it has potential. So that's where Mary went off in left field and did some Alice stuff. Another one of Mary's moments. Our kids broke off one of the pull chains to their fan in their room, and I kept it because Mary has weird ideas. But I got in the shop. I was waiting on stuff to dry or was waiting on something to print out. There's always, if I have downtime, this is where it happens every single time. But this one, I threw down some paint. I was trying to practice some marbling techniques. I really was. And they were ugly as sin. So I said, fine, I'm just going to take this piece of chain and I'm going to drag it back and forth in like a Z pattern as it spun, which that photo will be in there at some point. I don't know where it's at. But this one, I took the chain in both my hands and I did a circle movement, and that's what happened. So I think something not as small as the chains that's on the fan blades, like the Mardi Gras beads, the plastic beads that you have for the necklaces, I think would work really well. So that was another, oops, Mary screwed up her marbling, so let's just play around with the things. You can kind of see the movement happening there where I was making the circles.
That one just needed to be a little thicker, it looks like.
Yeah, I always have mixing dramas. That's where I was doing the zigzag. So I had the chain in between my two hands, and as the rod was spinning on like drying speed, so I didn't really have it like ramped up like you would normally put the application on. I was just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But because the balls on the chain are so tiny, it was over mixing it immediately. Because all that was striped on there before I even touched it. I didn't try to blend it or nothing. I just left it in stripes and then did the drag. Well, the zigzag, if you will.
The drag.
I did the zigzag, but it didn't work out. It's one of those like, yeah, okay, that's the first attempt. Let's try something else. Another one of Arturo's. I love these colors together.
You always love this color.
I love this color. This is one of my favorite colors right now.
You have a coffee cup with it?
I do. I've got a water cup with it. There's stuff
everything
in my car that's with it. That people call it different colors between teal, mint, and seafoam. But I love these colors together. So automatically when I saw it, I was like, yep, one of my favorite things. So Arturo just doing another amazing job of mixing all of his just 3 colors together and getting great results from that seafoam, white and black.
Christmas tree.
Just Ron does remind me of a Christmas tree, but it was
It is Mexican flag.
Mexican flag. So the red, white, and green.
Hecho en Mexico.
It is really, really nicely done. And you can tell, like, for somebody, Arturo does this all the time, right? But you look at the differences between each guide, you're never going to get the same results twice.
Mm-mm.
Me personally, I like the guide that's on the right because the chunks are bigger.
See, I like the one on the left.
You like the one on the left. It's personal preference.
Or the
this
one
stuff.
below at the bottom.
Yeah. A very, very pretty guide. By
And see, that
Arturo.
one's got a little glitter in it.
He did look, it looks like silver or pink. Actually, pink glitter's been thrown in that. Very nicely done.
Or it could be a metallic
Could be.
mixture.
It could be, yeah. You never know if it's the
Because that
paint
one
or
demo I did with the red and red metallic, but the gold metallic was just a paint, but the red had glitter. They
Yeah.
both looked the same.
Yeah. Actually, the gold metallic paint stood out more than the glitter that you
Yep.
mixed in. And you had a ton of glitter in that cup. Red, white, and blue. Very cool looking marbling. And very, like, they're all different because you've got some that are really mixed together really nicely with the drags. And you got some bigger ones that are, more defined. And you've got some that he kind of looks like he's done on the act. Like, it looks like it's spiraling, but I think that's just how it blended together.
Mm-hmm.
So Arturo in with another gray, white, and black. Once again, classic. Can't really go wrong with it. And this particular one, the white, black, and the gray kind of overtook, which is very odd. So usually the black or the white's going to try to take over, but the gray is more
Looks like you
predominant.
used more gray than anything.
Very good.
Your favorite color, seafoam again.
Seafoam popping in there.
And see, that one's got a little glitter in it, too.
Very, very nice. This one I like a little bit more than the other one because the black is more predominant instead of the white poking out so much. It looks like he just did the seafoam in black with it in this one. This one is purple, white, and black. Just looks good. I like how he takes his photos because you get little snippets of everything. But me personally, I would rather see a bigger photo of the actual marbling, like the decorative marbling, like what's supposed to be in the wrap area. I like the guide pictures, and it's always good to show off how you wrap your guides in epoxy and stuff. But I like to see the bigger
It gives
stuff.
a better idea of what the whole rod looks like.
Yeah, it's just style, personal style. Personal opinion, really. A Rasta rod. This one's fun because he's wrapped each guide in different, the red, the green, or the yellow, with the matching marbling underneath. And the yellow stands out pretty good and did not muddle up and kind of turn into a brown color. So that's nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
His yellow is really finicky to work with. It gets muddy real fast.
Real quick.
Okay, so another one of Chris Lick's. Purple and green. So I enjoy Chris Lick's work because it's very outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
All of his stuff is super unique to him. Like you could almost just not even look at, where his logos are at or how his pictures are taken. And you can go, that kind of reminds me of something Chris Lick would do. Because his very abstract. Like to me, I look at this and I see a person kind of sitting there or floating on top of something.
Well, and it kind of looks like it's got an oil slick technique to it. Where like it's kind of separated itself.
Yeah, and every single place that you look is different.
Mm-hmm.
Where everything, and he, like for me, I'd have to figure out a way of uniformity with it. But he's so, poof, it's there and it looks good. It looks good. And I like this one because it kind of gives that kind of night vibe. Another one of Chris Lick. So he's also been working with a lot of glow in the dark pigments and stuff. And this one's just fun. It's like orange and white. With
And the way he's
blue.
done it with a lot of the glow pigments that he's done, it's completely different during the day than it is at night.
Yeah, because the glow, so the glow looks like he's got it mixed in with the orange part. So you can see just a little bit of the yellow in the daytime. But at night, that orange disappears basically. And you see just a tiny bit of it and the yellow pokes out. So now that rod becomes this like neon yellow and turquoise basically is what the blue turns to. And it's just really fun. That one kind of reminds me of a planet for some reason.
Yeah.
Jupiter, I guess.
Another glow feature.
I'm just straight up, this is magma. I don't care what it's supposed to be. This looks
Lava.
like hot lava. Like, that thing is awesome. I have no idea what he's using, but the way that he's done this, like, look at how that thing lights up in the light. That is just insanity. Just cool that he's figured out how to do this, you know, because I don't see anybody else doing it. Now, does that mean that somebody else isn't? No, it just means I haven't seen it. But I think that looks like lava. Lava. Hot magma.
It's on fire.
That'd be one of those, like, I'd be joking around if I was carrying hot potato, hot potato, hot potato.
Whoops, it goes in the water.
Oh, it's hot. Can't touch it. Another one of Chris Lick's. This one's Space Vibes. I love how he put the little spaceship on there. So this looks like Galaxy, straight up. He's got the purples with the whites and silvers and blacks, and the way that
Dots
he's
for
done
stars and
dots for the stars. Like, it's looks straight up like a galaxy rod. It's so cool. Another one of his. So daytime one of this one is crazy looking, because nighttime it lights up to that kind of seafoam color
yep,
with black, but during the daytime it looks very
bone marrow.
like tan, kind of pale. But the shapes that he's created with it kind of reminds me of like tribal stuff. Like the way that one light up on the side, like I see like what would be a primitive drawing of like an animal, his head with its ears and like its foot down there. So I'd always be like, ooh, what shapes do I see in this? This one's fun. Obviously an army themed, but he's done just very minimal, but it's just enough. You know? So different styles are going to be completely up to you. You know, stuff that you've seen that other people do, that's not the expectation. The expectation is for you to kind of come up with your own thing. This one I love. Obviously, it's got some of my favorite colors mixed together. And this one is a mixture of marbling techniques and alcohol inks. I remember asking, because I was like, I just want to make sure I get my facts right.
Right.
But this one's really pretty. And I like how he's gone over. So he's done his black overwraps or his trim bands and stuff, but he's actually gone over it with like it's
a dusting
of like silver, just haphazardly putting it and just letting the strokes just fall where they fall, even if it went past the guide wrap, and it just works. This one I really love because it looks like ocean, the beach, like that looks like waves. But that grip color mixed in with that screams the beach.
It works great.
Screams the beach. I love that. So Keith, this was the second one of his where he's got, it's blue and silver and black kind of, and he's blended it pretty nicely together, and then he's kind of, I swear it looks like he striped the black on top to make it kind of look like a granite kind of thing, which I think that's a cool technique.
And I guess you could use some type of heavy flow pen to do that with as well. Or
take the technique that Mudhole was talking about on their live, where they mix CP into their epoxy and they tinted it and they were stringing it on there because they got thick. Same concept. Would you mix an acrylic paint into your
just over top of it after you're done? Just
string it or do whatever. If it's super thick, because you can get that little itty bitty little thing on there to come off. Lori Bard, look at the flames. Like, that's what I had envisioned on the Phoenix, okay? Because I saw her do this, and I thought, oh, man, that'd look hot. I can't replicate that. And, I'd almost send the Phoenix to her paint the dang flames on there and be like, thank you, and get it back.
You could take it to Foley with you.
I could take it to Foley. Just let her paint the flames on there for me.
Hey, Lori, I need a flame job on this.
Please, I'll pay you.
What'll it cost me?
Yeah, but I think that is the best flame,
closest I've ever seen
to flames I've ever seen with marbling, because she's kept the colors completely separate, but they blended too, so it looks realistic. And she even took it all the way out to the tip with the flames, and then added on like this little red, orange, and yellow blend of the threads with a little black trim in there, and then did the rest of it with the flames. Like, that's a lot of work on that tiny little section.
Yeah.
A lot of work, a lot of detail, a lot of patience.
And it's the closest actual fire I've ever seen.
Just phenomenal.
Bullet holes.
And I love, so this technically isn't marbling.
I mean.
But you're using the same concept. She's taken the idea of marbling and expanded upon it. Okay?
Exactly.
We're exploding the idea out. We're creating new concepts from old concepts. She's painted bullet holes on this thing. That's the coolest thing I've seen in a while.
It's the same techniques as marbling, just in more controlled section.
Letting it set up a little bit. Because she didn't actually take the paint and paint it straight on there. She actually had it mixed in with epoxy when she was doing this. So pretty cool little trick going on there. And there you go. That opens doors where we're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Well,
it's the same way you could do fish techniques and spiders and anything like that.
Paint anything on there as long as you're willing to sit there and do it. And as long as your base is cured, or if you're doing it straight to the blank, if you're doing it straight to the blank, just wipe it off if you mess up and start over. So Sean Gill, awesome.
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue, kind of abstract, kind of just letting it do its own thing. So Sean pointed out that he did not use any heat with this. He did not use any tools with this. He just let it do its thing. And he got that kind of result.
Okay.
To me, that's actually more skilled
Mm-hmm.
than us dragging all the paint around.
Yeah, because I like in the middle there where the red kind of crosses the white, I would have thought that was like drug across somehow.
Yeah, it looks like it's
Or
been
strung
blended
across
or
somehow.
something, but no, he didn't use tools. He didn't use any heat. He specifically said that, and I thought, dang, all right, Sean's on another level. Very cool looking design. Like no over blendage of colors. Everything stands out. Like it's very cool. All right, so Steve's got two different places that is actually marbled. We got the magic marbling happening on the real seat, and then we've got some marbling happening above the hook keeper. And the marbling that he's done above the hook keeper looks like it's orange, white, and black, and is in just a cool little twist around, if you will. TJ Potter, so he's got a cool little thing going on here. It's like he goes from fire to ice almost.
Yep.
You know, the red to orange, yellow, and then it cools back down to the blue. And then he's got that cool little dot detail happening up at the top. Hey, there's one of Wes's. So this is...
That was one of those gaffs.
That was one of the gaffs, yeah. That was the red, white, and black one you did.
Mm-hmm.
To me personally, I like that kind of... I like the big... You can see the design. It's not over mixed. And most of the time when you do it that way, I think this is why I like it so much, is because you get highlights of the colors in all of those designs.
Mm-hmm.
They're different. You got thicker sections, thinner sections. Some don't have them, but it just kind of creates.
And you can get
interest.
really close to replicating it.
Really close, yeah. Another one of yours, which you actually did a tutorial video on this one.
Mm-hmm.
That I think we had on YouTube. This is another one he used yellow acrylic paint and purple acrylic paint. And
So on this one, I can tell you now, I striped sideways first and then went around.
Yeah, you came down. You can tell where the pull happened.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it looks awesome. It kind of, if you had thrown green in that, it would have been straight up Mardi Gras.
Mm-hmm.
And one side, because that's the same one. That's the same blank that you did it on. But one side's got more yellow, the other side's more purple for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one of Wes's, which this one's, I love this one. So this, I just took a bunch of different photos of the entire thing. He came in the shop randomly one night last year and was like, I want a marble. And he sat down and marbled. And you had white, black, dark green, and then you also threw in Nuno's neon pigment,
green
didn't you?
pigment powder.
And the pigment powder, you didn't use as much of it. And I wish you had, because the sections that the neon green pops, it looks really cool. But another one of just how you were explaining your technique earlier.
Mm-hmm. I do it the same way every time.
Minus the one that you just looked at where you drug it down. And then your blue gaff that you did. Now, a lot of people have questions about, once you get the epoxy on there, when you do the marbling, sometimes they have bumps and humps. Like, what do you do to get rid of the bumps and the humps? And
I put more epoxy on top of it.
So you just leave it be? You don't ever put a heat gun to it to do any leveling or anything like that?
No, because then what it'll do is end up, say you overheat one little section of it, that section will run and take everything you did and mold it together in that spot. So just leave it, add epoxy on top of it, start getting it flat, and then sand it down after you have epoxy on it.
Multiple layers of epoxy. Because if you just put one coat and try to sand it, you're going to sand into your marbling, and then you just lost it.
Yep. Because if you try to heat it up after it's set there and started to set up, there's inevitably going to be one spot that gets hotter than the rest, and then it will drag and it'll mix together.
Do some loop-de-loops.
Yep. Now, if you want that effect, great, but be prepared for uncontrollability.
I would say Southern's got we didn't even see half of, I know the talent that's in that group specifically, and I know we didn't even see an eighth of the talent that is in the rod building community as far as marbling is concerned, because I only reach a certain amount of people when it comes to that kind of post and stuff. But even throughout all those pictures, you see that there's so many different ways to do it. There's really not a right or wrong way, It doesn't matter if you're using mica powder or pigment or acrylic paint or...
Well, there's a wrong way.
Alcohol or testers, alcohol inks or testers. What's the wrong way?
Marbling the entire blank on anything ultralight or fly.
Okay, well, yes. I'm talking about the technique, not where it's going. But, yes, that's true. You don't
Still a wrong
that.
way.
That is the wrong way to do it. Don't do that. It's just like don't wrap it all the way to the tip and put epoxy on it.
Product of the night is the President's Day sale going on at Mud Hole. So currently, from the 16th to the 20th, there's 20% off of MHX, American Tackle, and CRB blanks. You can get $50 off a Power Wrapper kit. There are, I don't remember how much exactly off of the rod stands that they have, but they're actually really nice rod stands that you can kind of see in the picture there. They're the ones that it's very small, but it has the holes where you can actually stick the rods in it. And then they're also doing 75% off of clearance on some things. So definitely check that out. There's actually some blanks on there that we're going to be ordering too because they are on sale.
Okay, didn't know that.
Tuesday night, there's going to be a live video talking about the Suka 2 handle system. How to glue it up, how to put it together, what all its uses are, where it can be used, how it can be used, everything about it, live Tuesday night on Mud Hole.
So a big thank you to Foundation Outdoor Group. We appreciate all the stuff that we are able to do now because of your awesomeness and the fact that you are so willing, between yourself that is covering all of Mud Hole, American Tackle, the guys at Mud Hole that are answering questions,
CRB products, everything.
Products, Pro FX. We have been blessed to be able to start doing the stuff and traveling and helping other people and teaching. Plus this podcast, just having fun, talk about decorating stuff, because why not? Just remember, marbling is a real quick, real fun kind of thing to kind of start dabbling into the decorative world. And I know that there's people that are like anti-marbling, there's people that are anti-thread. We all are going to have our opinions about stuff.
Anybody that's anti anything doesn't matter.
It's opinions.
Do your thing.
It's opinions, 100%. If you enjoy it, you like it, or even if you don't like what you've seen, but you kind of want to try to put a new twist on it, do it.
Do your thing.
There's no reason why you can't take the idea and do something cooler. Like we look at stuff like, I use Chris like an example because he has all that random stuff that isn't necessarily qualified as what marbling, as people would say it's supposed to be, but it's his style of marbling and it works and it's awesome, and it's character in that build, and it's not overly done. It's done the way it's supposed to be.
Yep. Just remember, it's your rod, you're designing it, and you do you, boo.
But yes, it is 100% a custom rod, which means that anything that we are doing with the art side behind it is art, and art is up for interpretation. And for the creator, if they like what they did, that's all that matters. If the customer that you're building it for likes what you did, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what anybody else has to say about it.
Nope, not at all.
Get out there, try it, have fun with it. Look into stuff online. There's people, especially on YouTube, you can find a plethora of stuff where they're doing the water marbling. You can get ideas for drag techniques just from them.
Alcohol links.
Yeah, you just have to take into account that, yes, they're working on a flat surface, so it's a little bit different, but the same drag techniques apply because that's how you're getting the patterns and stuff. And you can drag down the axis, you can drag across the axis. It doesn't always have to be just back and forth. You can do it all kinds of ways. Check out people that are working on the tumblers are a hot thing right now. They're doing all kinds of stuff on tumblers.
Yep. All kinds of marbling techniques, and
you can get ideas from anywhere, and a bunch of short videos too on how to do it. But just have fun with it and experiment and come up with your own kind of marbling technique if you want to, or come up with your own little fire drag technique like Lori did, and make it the best I've ever seen. Paint bullets on it, like just do some cool stuff, and not just think outside the box, because we don't have to do it as the whole wrap. We can do it as little design
pieces
pictures. If you want to pick a galaxy on a rod, all you'd have to start with is like a little polka dot, and then take your tool and drag out points, and now you've got a star.
You know one thing I didn't see?
What?
Under the real seat.
They sure
and I've
didn't.
seen it before.
They sure didn't share any under the real seat, did
No,
they?
but the exposed window seats, you can do it under that too.
Obviously, you can put it on any kind of rod and just can't go out towards the tip on the lighter weight ones.
Yep.
Anyways, thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully you learned a little bit. Hopefully you got a little inspired.
Hopefully you laughed.
I always hope they laugh because we're goofballs at heart.
If you don't know where to start, ask questions.
Don't worry about, like your first one turns out to be crap. Guess what? Now you've learned everything you don't want to do, so you can change it and fix it on the next one. And practice is super important with marbling. You can't just sit down with a rod and expect art to pop up on this thing, because you got to get used to the mechanisms behind it. It's just like I tell people with decorative wraps, like you're not going to sit down and do your first one and it's going to be knock it out the ballpark.
It's definitely not gonna be.
You got to practice with it. So all this decorative stuff takes a little bit of work and a little bit of practice. That's why we always scream and yell, get PVC, wooden dowels, broken blanks, practice on stuff that doesn't matter.
We spent what, $4 on a 10-foot stick of 1/2-inch PVC,
I mean,
and you know how many marbling tries you can get on that?
you can get so many because I break them down to 2 feet per person, so that people, if they come to the show and they want to wrap, they've got a 2-foot section that they can wrap on, and you know they're not fighting with this little short. They got elbow space to work on stuff, so that's 5 per thing, and that's 2 feet. You know, you were on your little demo, it's close to 2 feet.
It's like 1.5 feet.
He's already got like 4 on there. Because you just practice little short sections. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out thing.
Thanks, everybody.
Y'all have a fantastic night and day, depending on when you're listening, watching, hearing us. And we will talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.